Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. Dave is still out dealing with the personal issue, so just please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. For right now, I will keep you guys updated as I learn more information about when we have him back. We will have him back, but as of right now, I am still riding solo on the show. Thank you guys all for tuning in. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle. Banks & Jones led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. We're coming to you live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I hope you guys all had a wonderful Mother's Day. I hope you did something for your spouse, significant other, your mother, whoever in your family that is a mother, and a happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there now that it is Monday. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to ask a couple of questions regarding Tennessee and some things that have been said about them recently. We're going to start with there was a comment made recently that Tennessee's easy schedule will get them back into the college football playoffs. So I'm going to ask the question, will their easy schedule outweigh their issues? Also, in terms of issues, what are they? Did they actually downgrade in talent? We're going to ask that question because there's a lot of reports out there, a lot of columns that cobbled all together suggest they did. We'll get to that. Steve McClain hired as an assistant coach in Tennessee basketball. We're going to cover him. The House settlement is coming on revenue sharing. And Tennessee has a good problem to have, maybe, which is that they're good in every sport, which can make revenue sharing a little bit more difficult. And finally, Ohio State defensive end Jack Sawyer, former Ohio State defensive end Jack Sawyer, said that winning a national title outweighed losing to Michigan. That'll be what the H, because we're going to ask, is this really what we wanted out of the college football playoff for rivalry games to not matter like that? That's kind of a problem to me. This day in Tennessee sports history and stat of the day will also be on the docket. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. We want you to be a part of it, and also obviously leave a comment. Love engaging with you guys. And also keep me in your thoughts, guys. I don't know what happened. I'm 36. I turned 37 later this week. And for the first time, I'm feeling like the effects of getting older. I strained my back picking up charcoal to go grill on Saturday, and I have insane pain in my back right now. I've never dealt with pain in my lower back before, but like it hurts to move in certain ways. It doesn't hurt to put pressure on it. It just hurts to move it. And I don't know what to do. So if you guys know anything about this, please let me know. I'd rather try to fix it myself before having to go see a chiropractor. Not that I wouldn't, but I'm, again, something I've never dealt with. I've never known back issues before. So this is, wow, my own mortality staring me in the face as I turn 37 this week. So again, hit that like and subscribe button once again before we get diving in. We're live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. The Dave Hooker Show is represented, or Off the Hook Sports is represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, play to win, why settle. Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, BanksandJones.com, and they will actually bring us today's tough question. Let's get started right now. Will Tennessee's easy schedule, supposedly easy schedule, outweigh their talent issues that they seem to have? There's obviously a lot of freak out over the players they have lost, whether it be to transfer, the NFL draft, injury, or whatever. And it doesn't seem like they've upgraded the same way other schools have, which we will get to in our second block. But according to CBS Sports, Brandon Marcello of CBS Sports wrote an article, and it's overreactions from spring practice for every SEC team. He wrote that easy schedule will lead to playoff appearance. And here is the direct quote. Talk about all you want about Nico Iamaleava leaving for USL. Let me start that over. Talk all you want about Nico Iamaleava leaving for UCLA, but I'm not sure that matters much for the Vols. I hate the term system quarterbacks, but Josh Heupel's offense provides that structure for a signal caller. UCLA transfer Joey Aguilar will be just fine, and he'll have some wondering if the Vols won the de facto trade with the Bruins. The MVP at Tennessee is the schedule maker. The Vols get Georgia and Oklahoma at home, and arguably their most challenging games are on the road at Alabama and Florida. That's at least a 9-win season, and the win total at FanDuel is currently 8.5. Now, A 9-win season doesn't get you to the college football playoff. We learned that last year. 10-2 does, and Tennessee's schedule, if it's as easy as Marcelo says it is, it's not going to get them to a college football playoff at 9-3 this year either. They will have other 9-3 teams with better schedules. But let's ask this question, because Tennessee did benefit from last year, from the fact that only 2 teams that Tennessee played all year, Georgia and Alabama, finished the season ranked in the top 25 during the regular season. They did play Ohio State in the college football playoff, but only 2. This year, they play 3 teams that finished last season in the top 25, because they play Syracuse to open the season, and then they also still play Georgia and Alabama. So with that type of schedule, and most people don't think Syracuse is not on their level, but with that type of schedule, will the easy schedule be enough to outweigh supposed talent issues? And the poll question is up, and go on and vote for it. My poll question I'm asking is, will Tennessee football's easy schedule outweigh its issues in terms of talent? Yes, no. Vols don't have an easy schedule. Vols don't have a talent issue. Those are your questions. I can't really say talent issue yet. I'll talk about that soon. What I can say about Tennessee's schedule is that I think we're overlooking how difficult it actually could be. Not how difficult we know it will be, but how difficult it could be. So I'm going to say no. The easy schedule won't outweigh their issues in terms of talent, because the schedule's not as easy as it looks, particularly for Tennessee, and particularly when you take it into account matchup issues. So let's start with Syracuse. Syracuse finished last year in the top 25. They're building a program under Fran Brown. Now, they took a step back because they lost some key players, but I still think they'll be fine. They've got a lot of talent. Fran Brown's got the program rolling, and Tennessee has a lot of attrition it has to deal with that opening weekend. So Syracuse, just for that reason, could be tougher than we think. 2 weeks later, I mean, you talk about devising the schedule. Georgia's very early in the season, and it's at home. And I think Tennessee would rather have Georgia on the road. I'll get to why in a second, but one of the reasons Georgia being at home doesn't matter is because they play Georgia so early when they're breaking in a new quarterback. They're still going to be banged up at a couple of key positions, cornerback, and they're just not on Georgia's level talent-wise. And when you take all of that into account, one, playing Georgia early hurts because of their lack of development. They will still be young. They will still be developing. But playing Georgia at home hurts because that's a wasted loss that you have to waste a home game on a game that's probably a circled loss anyway. So going down the list, they just brought up the 2 most challenging foes, arguably, are on the road, Alabama and Florida. Well, Georgia's the most challenging foe, but playing Alabama and Florida on the road is another problem. They'd much rather play Alabama and Florida at home and Georgia on the road. Tennessee hasn't beaten Alabama or Florida on the road since 2003. Alabama is going to be much better this year under Kalen DeBoer, I think. And that's going to be an issue for Tennessee, especially going to Tuscaloosa. And Florida had a very strong finish to the season last year. I mean, they did upset Ole Miss. They were left for dead. They were dead in the water. Billy Napier was getting fired. And then out of the blue, they won their final 4 games, including 2 top 25 wins over LSU and Ole Miss, both of whom were in the college football playoff race entering November. I mean, we're still not talking about that. They entered November in the college football playoff race, and Florida beat both of them back-to-back weeks, and they barely finished outside of the top 25. They finished 8-5, and now they returned DJ Lagway. There's a lot of hype behind them. So playing Florida on the road is definitely difficult. So when you take that into account, after playing only 2 teams in the regular season to finish in the top 25 last year, it's looking like they're going to play 4 teams in the regular season who could finish in the top 25 this year. So my take on this is the Vols don't really have an easy schedule. I think the schedule is much more difficult than it is. And with that in mind, I don't think it's going to outweigh the issues of playing at home. I also think Kentucky being on the road is a little bit more difficult, even though they were 4-8, 5-7 last year. And Arkansas, Mississippi State's going to take a step forward under Jeff Lebby. They're on the road. Tennessee's vulnerable to drop a game it shouldn't on the road somewhere. Oklahoma at home is one they should win. Brent Venables, I think, could be on the hot seat after this year. They have a new offensive coordinator. They're desperately trying anything, but they could be better at quarterback. So I think the schedule is actually harder, and I think Syracuse is a much harder non-conference game than NC State was last year. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Vote on the poll question. We'll give you the results after a quick message from Banks & Jones.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. The poll question: will Tennessee football's easy schedule outweigh its issues in terms of talent? The leading vote getter by a plurality is the Vols don't have an easy schedule. That's at 38%. Tied at 24% are no, it won't. And the Vols don't have a talent issue. And then at 14%, yes, it will outweigh its issues in terms of talent. I'm leaning with the plurality that the Vols don't have an easy schedule. Again, I think that this is based on last year. I think that's what Brandon Marcello is doing. And I think he's just missing the fact that this is a these are very different teams Tennessee's playing. Georgia is still Georgia. Alabama and Florida are both going to be better, as will Mississippi State and maybe even Arkansas and Oklahoma. Okay, so in terms of the tough teams, their toughest opponents are actually going to be significantly better. And taking that into account, look, it's really hard to say that Tennessee is going to have a much easier schedule. So I'm going to say no. The schedule will not outweigh their talent issues, whatever those may be, just because of the schedule. Truth be told, it did outweigh it last year. It might have outweighed it last year. That might have been how they got to the college football playoff. I mean, Tennessee's best win was at home against Alabama, and Alabama ended up 9-3 and lost 24-3 to Oklahoma late in the year. So, I mean, it wasn't like Alabama ended up being that special of a team. They lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. So, and of course, Michigan at the end of the year. Jalen Milroe was not a good quarterback, a terrible fit for Kalen DeBoer's system. I get they beat LSU, Missouri, and they did shock Georgia at home, but there were 1,000 issues with Alabama. So I'm not so sure. And Tennessee kind of laid the blueprint for shutting down Alabama's offense. And with that in mind, I think Tennessee, truth be told, wasn't that special in beating Alabama after you saw how it went the rest of the way. So this year, I think things are a lot more difficult. Alabama and Florida on the road, and then Georgia at home is still almost a circle loss, particularly since it's in September. Even if you think Tennessee by year 5 should be on Georgia's level, and I said last Friday, Josh Heupel doesn't get a mulligan for that, the attrition that Tennessee's dealing with doesn't jive well with them having to play Georgia so early in the season. That's a real big problem for them. And it's funny. Tennessee fans always complain about playing Georgia early in the season, and Tennessee fans always complain about playing Florida late in the season. Recently, they've been playing. I can't even talk right now. Tennessee fans have been complaining for years about playing Florida early in the season, which they've been doing for the past 30 years since this rivalry began. Recently, they've been playing Georgia late in the season. It has since reversed. They played Georgia early in the season this year, third week of the year, and then they play Florida November the 22nd, their second to last game of the year. That Florida game could be huge because they could be on the bubble for the playoff that day going into Gainesville. That could be a game where both teams are fighting for a playoff spot. And since it's in November, it could be as big as the 2001 Tennessee-Florida matchup, which obviously is one of the most legendary in school history. So a lot to think about with Tennessee and the schedule. I just think the generic takeaway from me is that their schedule is not as easy as it looks on paper, even though it was desirable in 2024. Again, things have just changed since then. So we're going to have to talk about that going forward. And I just don't think that the question is, is there a talent issue to where they needed an easy schedule? We don't know that yet. We can't say for sure. That does lead to our next topic, though, which we'll get to in a second. But first, vote on the poll question. Will Tennessee football's easy schedule outweigh its issue in terms of talent? Yes, no. Vols don't have an easy schedule. Vols don't have a talent issue right now. Vols don't have an easy schedule. Leads by a plurality at 36%. No is 32%. Vols don't have a talent issue, 20%. And yes, 12%. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Let's talk about this talent problem for Tennessee. And this is Four Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. A series of articles and columns and just developments we know about suggest Tennessee had a major downgrade in talent from last year. Have the Vols downgraded in talent from last year based on the recruiting classes, who they lost in the transfer portal? We ask that question now, and it's based on, and it brings us Four Downs. Again, Four Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, and we're putting up the poll question now. Have the Vols downgraded in talent from last year? Go ahead and vote on it, yes or no. Very simple. We play Four Downs to show why we're asking this question. Four Downs now. First, a message from Cooper Mays. Hit like and subscribe. And another message from Coop. First down. Tennessee was not in the top 25 of ESPN's recent newcomer class rankings. Now, the newcomer class includes recruits and transfer portal guys. Tennessee was not in the top 25. That even though they had a 5-star and David Sanders Jr. commit to the program, they had by most accounts a top 12 recruiting class across the board wherever you looked. They were not in the top 25 in terms of transfer portal rankings. That's a concern. That's a concern. You need to constantly reload your roster. Tennessee has not done it the way other schools have this year. And in terms of just SEC schools, we're talking LSU was ranked number 2, Auburn was number 3, Texas was number 4, Ole Miss was number 6. I've already named you 4 schools from the SEC right now. Missouri was number 10, that's 5. South Carolina was number 11, that's 6. South Carolina just missed the college football playoff last year. And so 6 teams in the top 11 from the SEC. 7 in the top 14 as Georgia was number 14, and 8 in the top 15 as Alabama was number 15, 9 in the top 16 as Texas A&M was number 16. See where I'm going here, guys? 9 of the top 16 teams were SEC schools, and Tennessee plays 2 of them. Moving down, Oklahoma's number 19. So Tennessee plays 3 of the top 20 schools, and 10 of the top 20 are SEC teams alone. And then number 21 is Kentucky. Number 23 is Florida. So 12 of the top 25 in terms of newcomer class rankings per ESPN are from the SEC. 12 of the top 25. Tennessee is one of the 4 SEC schools to not be on that list. Meanwhile, Tennessee has to play 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They have to play 5 of the schools on that list, all from the SEC. So first down is Tennessee hasn't upgraded in talent. Their upgrading in talent is significantly less than the upgrades that a lot of other schools have done. That's a big concern. So that's one of the reasons there's a question of if they downgraded in talent. Cooper Mays brings you second down. Tennessee's quarterback rankings collapsed. Now, again, we can talk about the system. We can talk about who's overrated, who's underrated, but I still believe Nico Iamaleava would have been better this year than Joey Aguilar is going to be for Tennessee. And we still don't know that Joey Aguilar is going to be the starting quarterback at Tennessee. However, in Brad Crawford of 247 Sports rankings of the top 50 quarterbacks ahead of the 2025 season, he had Joey Aguilar all the way down at number 50. He had Nico Iamaleava all the way up at number 19. Whether or not you think Iamaleava is overrated, whether or not you think Josh Heupel made the right move, I still maintain from a talent perspective, Tennessee downgraded at quarterback from what they would have had this year, even though they upgraded over what they had last year. I think Nico was going to take a big step forward, particularly with the receivers in the system, who I think will be better. But taking that into account, I have to say that the downgrade from what they could have had at quarterback, combined with the lack of upgrades from newcomers, those do raise some issues. Now, from Tennessee center Cooper Mays here, third down. Attrition at their biggest strengths. What was Tennessee's biggest strength last year? It was the depth at defensive line that allowed them to rotate so many guys and keep getting pressure without blitzing. Helped by an elite edge rusher in James Pierce. And then a dominant running game thanks to extremely experienced interior offensive lineman and Dylan Sampson, who set the school record for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in a season. Well, Dylan Sampson's gone. All three interior linemen who helped them set that record are gone. Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, Andre Carrick. Heck, for good measure, a fourth offensive lineman is gone, and right tackle John Campbell Jr. Three defensive tackles who were part of that deep rotation are gone, and Amari Thomas, Elijah Simmons, and Omar Norman Lott. And then the edge rusher who was able to be the star or be the impact player, even though it was to a lesser degree last year, he still dictated how a lot of the blocking schemes were. James Pierce is gone. Those losses are huge. And yes, it's a huge reason to believe that Tennessee may have actually downgraded in talent. And I know that's uncomfortable to talk about, but look, there's a lot of issues in which they got to deal with. And yes, they might have actually downgraded in talent when you add all those things together. Before we bring you fourth down, a quick message from Ted Russell Ford. Four Downs is brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Fourth down coming up.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford.
From all SEC center Cooper Mays, fourth down. Okay, I had to bring it up that way. Fourth down, Tennessee has some key injuries already with the guys that were returning. Two in particular. Tight end Miles Kitselman, a safety blanket for Nico Iamaleava last year, would definitely be one for Joey Aguilar this year since he's a gunslinger and will make more short passes. Miles Kitselman got hurt in spring ball. He probably won't be 100% when the season kicks off in September. And most notably, cornerback Jamal McCoy. Per PFF, by far Tennessee's best player, was a lockdown #1 corner last year and was the biggest reason behind their gigantic leap forward in the secondary. McCoy obviously tore his ACL. He tore it back in January. They expect him back in September. I don't expect him to be 100% though. So Cooper Mays bringing you fourth down. I say the key injuries already is another big reason to believe they have downgraded in talent or may have, and that is a concern. So the question from Off the Hook Sports, have the Vols downgraded in talent from last year? And man, we got a debate on our hands. 50% say yes, 50% say no. Keep voting on that poll question because it's a tough one. I don't see how you can look at what's happening and not think that Tennessee has downgraded in talent to a certain degree. Now, again, some positives. Some of the returning talent could be better. I think they will be much better at linebacker with the same players they had last year, Arian Carter and Jeremiah Thielander. Thielander and Carter will both be much more experienced. Carter's a rare athlete, so he can be an elite playmaker, and now he won't be out of position as much, and Thielander will be more solidly locked in at middle linebacker. Even though Jacoby Thomas entering the transfer portal hurt, and we talked about that last week, I do think that the safety position will be better because Jordan Thomas is back. Now, he may not be 100% in September, but I think he'll be ready to go soon enough. Also, I think the passing game will be better, not because of the Joey Aguilar, Nico Iamaleava trade. I think it's because of the receivers. I've told you guys this before. I think the receivers will be significantly better. Last year, Brew McCoy played a step too slow, which was revealed why he didn't get taken in the NFL draft and forced him to medically retire from football, sadly, as he was coming off a broken leg in 2023. Being the one Tennessee wideout who could dictate coverage, that messed up the entire receiving core because nobody had to roll players over for Brew. So there weren't as many easy deep shots there. When they were there, Nico may have led Brew a little bit too much because Brew was a step slow. And that's how doing that is why they couldn't open things up as much for Dante Thornton, and Squirrel White couldn't open things up as much either because he was playing with a separated shoulder, and those were the three main receivers last year. That's why Chris Brazzell had to be in there. This year, you got Chris Brazzell as the possession receiver on one side. You have got Mike Matthews as the dictate coverage receiver on the other side, which I think he's good enough to do. And in the slot, you have options at Braylon Staley and Boo Carter. I would maintain not as good as Squirrel White would have been fully healthy, but they, particularly Staley, should be better than Squirrel White was last year since Squirrel White was banged up. So even though there are issues, they should be better at receiver. So they should be better at receiver, better at linebacker, and better at safety. And the cornerback position should be able to pick up by October, when I think Jamal McCoy will be 100%. The problem was, getting back to the first topic, their schedule. Syracuse is no easy fall out of bed win, and Georgia is in September for them, unfortunately. So that's the biggest problem. As far as the poll question goes, where do they stand now? Have the Vols downgraded in talent from last year? 53% say no, 47% say yes. So it's very close. A lot of people are saying different things on it. So just a lot to talk about. And look, yes, I get the whole Nico thing people are bitter about and don't want that type of player in their system, but I would also say Nico Iamaleava, they wouldn't have wanted to lose him if they had the choice. I'm just going to say it. So portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Tennessee basketball hiring a new assistant. What does this mean for the Vols? Stick with us. We'll break it down. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. It is time for this day in Tennessee sports history, and it's a day late because it happened on Sunday, but I still think we should do this for this day because it was it's significant, and it is Memorial Day month. A happy birthday to Clyde Fuson, born on May the 11th, 1923. He would have been 102 years old today. Fuson was a fullback on the 1942 team for Tennessee, and then went and fought for the Vols and died in World War II. Was one of 4 Vols to pass away during World War II. All of them, their numbers are retired. Fuson's number 62 was retired in 2006. A happy birthday to the late Clyde Fuson, and a major thank you for his service of liberating Europe, basically, and helping America become the dominant superpower economically, because that's what happened during World War II, those two things. And so, again, a happy birthday to Clyde Fuson. This day in Tennessee sports history brought to you by Haun Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com hdknoxville.com. Portions of the program also brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. peakivhydration.com. Link in the chat down below. All right. Tennessee basketball has a new assistant coach. And he's not the typical assistant coach that the Vols hire. Traditionally, Rick Barnes, while his coaching tree is not great, he's done a pretty good job throughout his time of hiring up-and-comers who he expected to do very, very well. We're talking guys like Rod Clark, who just went to Indiana, but there have been other guys too over the years that even have head coaching jobs now. The George Mason Patriots head basketball coach, I'm trying to remember his name if I'm not mistaken. His it's not the current coach, the previous coach of George Mason, Kim English. That's right. Kim English, who had such success at George Mason. He then took the job at Providence. Guys like that. He finds up-and-comers who have a lot of promise. They don't always work out. Many times they don't. That's how coaching trees are, but Rick Barnes typically goes for the younger guys. Well, this time he hired Steve McClain, who is 62 years old. Now, Steve McClain comes to Tennessee and joins Amara Morgan, who is an up-and-comer who was just hired to fill the vacant slot. Clark left. How does Steve McClain fit in? Well, former Tennessee guard Lucas Campbell, who was an assistant, is actually transitioning to a new role, which is Director of Player Personnel and Recruiting Coordinator. So this is going to be a fit for Campbell to be able to recruit. McClain can be an on-court assistant who is a veteran. McClain's success, he spent 3 years in the early 90s at Hutchinson Community College, going 27-7, 29-5, and winning the Kansas JL Community College Conference in his second year. And this is from 91 to 94. So he went 27-7 in 91-92, went 29-5 in 92-93, and won the Kansas JL Community College Conference. And then in 93-94, went 35-4 and was the National Junior College Division I national champion. After that, how about before that? He was a junior college assistant at a bunch of different schools. But then after he was at junior college, he took an assistant job with the TCU Horned Frogs, where he was for 4 years. Before he became a head coach in Division I basketball. So he was an assistant for the Horned Frogs during the mid-90s. And TCU during that time was led by Billy Tubbs. Okay, so Billy Tubbs was the head coach when Steve McClain was his assistant. For those who don't know, Tubbs had a lot of great success at Oklahoma in the 80s, reaching the Elite Eight in 84-85, playing for the national title in 87-88, reaching the Sweet 16 in 88-89. Also took Lamar to the Sweet 16 in the late 70s. And then while Steve McClain was there, helped TCU go to 4 straight winning seasons with Billy Tubbs, including his last year with Billy Tubbs, helping them win the Western Athletic Conference Championship when they were 27-6. From there, McClain got the head coaching job at Wyoming. And in his first year at Wyoming in the WAC, went 18-10. They moved over to the Mountain West a year later and 19-12. Then they went 20-10, won the Mountain West regular season. And in 2001-2002, went 22-9, made the NCAA tournament, repeating as WAC champions and going to the second round of the NCAA tournament. He coached at Wyoming for 8 years. And had 2 losing seasons later, but did finish 17-15 his last year. And after coaching at Wyoming, he became an assistant at Colorado, an assistant at Indiana, and then took the job with the UIC Flames, University of Illinois Chicago, and couldn't recreate the magic there. Went 5-25 his first year, but then building back up 17-19, 20-16, 16-16, 18-17. He's 3-24 and 2-24 all time as a head coach. Recently, he was an assistant under Tom Crean's staff at Georgia, and then he's been an assistant, ironically, at Texas. So he comes with a ton of experience at Tennessee and is not the profile of a guy Rick Barnes hires, but he understands basketball to an elite degree. And this leads me to believe one thing that I kind of already believed about Rick Barnes, but now I'm convinced on it. And it's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Rick Barnes is going all in on winning a national title within the next 2 years. Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
All right, it's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. I've got the poll question up. Let's have a little bit of fun. Why did Rick Barnes hire an assistant in his 60s? To develop young men, which Rick Barnes has been in the business of coaching to do his whole life. He cares about developing people more than he does even winning. That's just who he is. That's his faith. That's how committed he is from a character perspective. So to develop young men, or he's all in on a national title. I think he's all in on a national title. I think Rick Barnes, this is a sign that Rick Barnes wants to win a national title before he retires. And he also knows his limitations. What's been Rick Barnes' biggest issue? Rick Barnes has struggled with one-and-done 5-stars and fitting them into a solid program he's running. He's now got a solid program. He's got a bunch of veterans joining the team this year who will buy in, but he's got to make sure Nate Ament somehow works in. That's where you get Steve McClain to come in, who can just focus on an X's and O's thing to help develop Nate Ament and figure out the best way to utilize him, because Rick Barnes is focused on development. It's not going to really get through to Ament, who wants to go straight to the NBA. So I think this is a big move for Rick Barnes, because part of his belief in developing people is developing assistant coaches too. So by hiring an assistant coach in his 60s, I think he's all in on trying to win a national title. And that's the poll question. Why did Rick Barnes hire an assistant in his 60s? To develop young men. He's all in on a national title. Now, McClain was on Rodney Terry's staff at Texas. So and Rodney Terry obviously didn't work out at Texas. So he's been on a few staffs that didn't work out, but that doesn't make him not a good assistant coach. I mean, he has had success at different places everywhere he's been, and he does know basketball. And just his experience in general is a huge plus. So Rick Barnes and McClain together could provide a level of experience, while Amara Morgan provides the youth, as Lucas Campbell and Morgan provide the recruiting. I think it's a good team of guys, okay? And I think it's enough to – Rick Barnes has somebody who can help run things from a head coaching perspective while he's out. Look, this is him. This is him going all in on a national title. He ain't trying to develop head coaches anymore. He wants a national title before his career ends. And I mean, who can blame him? Okay, he's accomplished everything you could possibly accomplish without a national title. So I think Rick Barnes going all in on the national title makes perfect sense. I think this is a very, very, very solid hire for Tennessee. And it makes me somewhat reevaluate the whole Nate Ament 5-star power forward pickup, or 5-star forward pickup. For those of you who don't know, I know Nate Ament is the biggest recruit in Tennessee history, the highest rated recruit in Tennessee basketball history. I was never as excited about him for the Vols, because my argument has been that Rick Barnes does not develop. He develops talent well, He does not mold one-and-done guys as freshmen into his system well, because one-and-done guys aren't looking to be developed. They're looking for a pit stop for the NBA, and they're looking at, they already are projected draft picks in the NBA. The NBA is already scouting them. They're in college for a year. They're just looking for the best place for them to shine and look like superstars. And it's always hard for them to develop into a system like what Rick Barnes wants to do. So with that in mind, I've worried about it. Rick Barnes' history has never been that good with one-and-done 5-stars. Again, only once. He's had 9 one-and-done 5-star freshmen on his teams throughout his career. And only one of those times did he make it out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. That was with Julian Phillips in 2022-23. And we all know Julian Phillips had very little to do with that Tennessee basketball team getting to the Sweet 16. So that's the issue with Nate Ament. At the same time, a guy like Steve McClain, who's a veteran who understands X's and O's, I think helps that a lot. And I think Barnes knows it helps it. So he's sacrificing a little bit of his whole reason for being into coaching, which is to develop people to try and win. And that's an interesting sign. That means Rick Barnes is clearly all in on trying to win. And I think the rest of the world should watch out on that. Why did Rick Barnes hire an assistant in his 60s? Looks like the rest of you guys agree with me. 91% say he's all in on a national title. 9% say he did it to develop young men. Yeah, it's to win a national title. I think I can safely say that at this point. Portions of the program brought to you by Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hey, Bo, Off the Hook sent you." Hey, Bo, Off the Hook sent you. When we come back, we're going to talk about a new unique challenge facing Tennessee, and it has to do with NIL, and we're going to have to play a little bit of hot or cold. Not NIL specifically, but revenue sharing. And they got a different challenge that no one saw coming. Stick with us. 2 minutes, Off the Hook Sports. We'll talk about it soon.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. All right. Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel and John Adams, by the way, who has obviously been a regular guest on the show in the past, both have articles up in Knox News this morning about what Tennessee having to deal with the upcoming House settlement on revenue sharing. Now, let's remember, this House settlement, when it comes to revenue sharing, deals with something very specific. That specific thing is allowing schools to pay players directly, which is about $21 million they're going to have. They're going to have to set some of that aside for increased scholarship limits and things like that. So it'll be roughly $18.5–19 million to divvy up among sports. Tennessee has a good problem to have. This money is going to be more difficult for them to divvy out than other schools because they've got so many sports that deliver. Tony Vitello can say he deserves more than your typical baseball program gets because he won a national championship. Kim Caldwell can sell what she just did her first year as the Lady Vols head coach and what she's building. Rick Barnes can point out that he's the most successful coach in Tennessee men's basketball history. Football is football. With that in mind, how should Tennessee go about divvying up the direct revenue sharing money? That's going to be more difficult than you think, believe it or not. And we're going to say all the factors that should go into play with this. And it's brought to you by City Heating and Air, 50 years in East Tennessee, integrity matters, cityheatandair.com, as we play hot or cold right now. What are the factors that should go in to Danny White's decision-making over how to divvy up the direct revenue sharing money schools can pay to players? Hot or cold right now. First one, no factors. Only pay football players. Okay, I'm a little cold on that. I'll be honest. I'm a little cold on that because I think you have to do a little bit of basketball. One is a revenue driver. And then the other small sports, particularly Tennessee, that are very successful, like women's basketball and baseball, there's a pride with Tennessee that is not there with other schools that do generate other forms of profit when they are successful. So I say no on that. Only pay football and men's basketball players. I'm still cold on it. I'm sympathetic to it because those are the only revenue generators. But again, for those who don't know, the Lady Vol fan base has a deep contingency in Knoxville that's actually different from the football and men's basketball fan base. And they help play a role in helping to really propel Tennessee to new heights when the Lady Vols program is doing well. And given how much ESPN and national media now talks about women's basketball, I don't think you can just let that go by the wayside. Now, maybe pay just those three sports and then leave baseball out, because I don't think baseball elevates you that much. I think Tennessee uniquely has a baseball culture, but you can't discount that baseball culture either, because also the College World Series is one of the most fun moments in sports. So you can't put a direct value on trying to pay baseball and women's basketball, but there is some value there. Factor in revenue generated by sports to determine how much to pay each sport. I'm hot on that. I don't think you can ignore revenue generation. Okay. I mean, I think you do have to pay sports you do have to pay based on who generates the most money. Pay every sport equally. No, cold on that. You can't do that. Sorry. You got to be realistic. You got to win, and you just can't do that. Okay. Now here is an interesting one. Pay based on what other SEC teams are doing in each sport. I think that should be a factor too. I think what other SEC teams are doing in each sport should be a factor, quite honestly, because the whole point is to make sure you don't lose a competitive advantage. If you can divvy up funds in a way where you can keep it a competitive advantage, that becomes a factor. So I'm hot on that. I think that's a really, really good idea. Now, here's a big question. Factor in success. Should Tony Vitello say that he deserves a little bit more money than other baseball programs, even if it's not a revenue sport, because of what baseball has done generating revenue over the course of, shall we say, over the course of the last few years? Look, man, I don't think you do it mostly based on success. I think that is a very small factor, but I think you got to somewhat take it into account, believe it or not. I actually do. I think you somewhat have to take success into account. So with that in mind, yeah, I actually probably would factor in success, as crazy as that sounds when you think about how much revenue matters. And I still say that revenue matters, but I just don't think you can ignore success at the same time. It's not the biggest thing. It's actually a very small thing, but it's there, and success has to matter. So with that in mind, I'm going to factor in success. So the last one, and then we'll have a poll question up. But first, hot or cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. It's going to take NIL into account. Hot or cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
All right, the last one, hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, NIL. An understanding that NIL will increase with more success on the field. So focus on that more than revenue and sell the point that NIL opportunities will outweigh directly what players are getting in revenue. I'm hot on that. I think there is a communication level that you can do if Tennessee gets out in front of the NIL market, where you could sell what NIL is what NIL will do for you if you have success on the field, and how what they're doing will allow for more success on the field. And that's why maybe you could accept a pay cut in something like women's basketball even. I mean, we know this now. Women's basketball players are much more marketable than the revenue they generate on a national scale if they have success. So I think you could sell that probably most to women's basketball, more to that than even baseball, because baseball players don't necessarily become that marketable. But women's basketball players, I mean, ESPN covers it so religiously that I think there will be endorsement deals on the table in women's basketball that wouldn't be there. So you can maybe sell cutting the funding for that more than other sports, even though that would look bad for optics if you cut it for women's basketball and not for baseball. So I'm setting up the poll question now. How should Vols base their payments to players across sports when the House settlement comes up? And say revenue generated. We'll go success. What other SEC teams or what other teams are doing. And the last one, we will say, setting it up now, I'll say pay every sport equally. How about that? Now, I'll let you guys decide. So, how should Vols base their payments to players across all sports? That are about to be allowed. All right, sorry guys, I got a little slowed for a second. So I'm setting this up again. How should Vols base their payments to players that are about to be allowed across all sports? Revenue generated, success, what other teams are doing, or pay every sport equally? If I have to choose between those four, I'm going revenue generated. I'm going revenue generated. I understand the point you might want to make that success matters, but I'm going revenue generated. Second is what other teams are doing. I would also base it on what other teams are doing, because the whole point of paying these players is about the competitive advantage you can get or the competitive disadvantage you can avoid. With that in mind, I think that you really have to focus on what other teams are doing. I know that doesn't seem popular, but you have to focus on what other teams are doing. And as of right now, with just 6 votes in, the votes are picking up. That's the one vote no one's taken into account. But guys, this direct revenue to players, these direct payments, it's based on what other teams are doing. It's based on what the market calls for. And that's how you maintain, because this is all about maintaining a competitive advantage or avoiding a competitive disadvantage. So I just got to be honest. I don't know how you can justify not factoring in what other teams are doing. As of right now, for the poll question, revenue generated is the leader by a large majority. 62% say they should base their payments based on revenue generated per sport. 12% say divide it equally between success, what other teams are doing, and pay every sport equally. Yeah, you can't pay every sport equally, guys. I'm sorry. Rowing does not deserve the same payment to players as football. Now, there is a Title IX issue that's going to have to be addressed when this House settlement happens. You would theoretically think, because the settlement came from the House, that it wouldn't, because the Supreme Court would be interpreting a law written by Congress. This is a settlement with Congress. So taking that into account, theoretically, the Supreme Court could say, well, Congress is carving out an exception, a clear exception for NCAA athletes with Title IX. They're carving out a clear exception to Title IX with this direct revenue payments to schools. But it's going to be tricky to make that case, guys. It's going to be tricky. There are lawyers that are much smarter than me that could probably figure that out. But I'm telling you, it's not as easy as you probably think. So I think you really got to be careful with how you're approaching this, and they got to be careful with how they're approaching this. Okay, so just watch out. But in general, it's got to be about the revenue. You can't pay everybody equally in every sport equally. That's just an insane idea. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just totally insane to do that. Portions of the program are brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TN, facebook.com/sports treasures TN. It is time for the stat of the day. And since we've been talking about Tennessee's schedule, we're going to talk about a factor in their schedule last year. And it will be our stat of the day coming to you now. Last year, 2024, Tennessee went 10-3 and made the college football playoff. They only played 2 teams in the regular season to finish the year ranked in the top 25. Only 2. Alabama and Georgia. Went 1-1 against them, beating Alabama, losing to Georgia. That marks just the 8th time since Tennessee started playing Florida, Georgia, Alabama regularly, since the SEC split into 2 divisions in 92. Marks just the 8th time Tennessee only played 2 ranked teams in the regular season. The other 7 were 95, 96, 2004, 2007, 2009, 2015, and 2016. Now, what stands out about all those? 95 and 96 was part of the most successful 4-year period in Tennessee history from 95 to 98 in the modern era. 04 and 07 were the last 2 times Fulmer won the East before he was fired. 09 was the one winning season for Tennessee, sandwiched between 2008 and 2013. 2015 and 2016 were the only 2 top 25 finishes Tennessee got to enjoy in the period between Philip Fulmer and Josh Heupel. So the scheduling obviously helped out in so many different ways, and 2024 was their first trip to the college football playoff, although they did only make it because it was 12 teams. They wouldn't have made it if it were 4 teams. Stat of the day is brought to you by Work Trucks. They're all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with the nap hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and gets you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com, worktrucksllc.com with an X. Why risk chancing your future and business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also work to make sure you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. When we come back, we're going to talk about a comment made by Jack Sawyer, former Ohio State defensive end, that represents where college football has gone with the playoff, and in my opinion, everything wrong with college football. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Haun Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. I want to get to the message board real quick, guys. I think y'all are missing the point I made with the stat, because some of you guys are saying Vanderbilt was ranked for a period of time last year. Daniel Maddox points out that Tennessee played 5 teams ranked at the time of the games played. Again, I think, Daniel Maddox, you understood what I was saying because you did point this out at the end. But I'm talking about teams that finished the season ranked in the top 25. Tennessee only played 2 during the regular season this past year. All right. We're going to close with something that I think validates every concern I've had about the college football playoff expansion. And it's What the H, brought to you by Double D Piping. Former Ohio State edge rusher Jack Sawyer admitted that winning a national title last season erased the pain of losing to Michigan. If you remember, in a very, very tenuous moment, Ohio State was upset at home by Michigan for the 4th year in a row. They lost to Michigan. It was a 7-5 Michigan team. Michigan then wanted to plant the M flag at Ohio State's midfield logo. Ohio State players wouldn't let them. They were so upset. They were so frustrated. It put Ryan Day's seat on it made it extremely hot. It led to an Ohio lawmaker trying to pass a law banning flag planting in stadiums. They were so upset about it. This rivalry got very serious. Okay. And then after all of that, Ohio State went on to win the national title. When they were left for dead, Tennessee filled up Columbus because fans were so unhappy about the state of Ohio State after that. But here's what Sawyer said on Football and with Ben Roethlisberger. He said, winning a national championship, he said, that takes no emphasis off how important the game is, the game being Ohio State, Michigan. He says, but when you win a national championship, if anyone tells you they'd rather go 1-12 and just beat the team up north, you're crazy. You're playing this game to win championships. And make no mistake about it, no one wants to beat those guys more than we do. But at the end of the day, there's nothing we could have done about that. I mean, we have our shot to go chase the ultimate goal, which is to win a national championship. Guys, Jack Sawyer is 1,000% right. And it's not his fault. But this is what an expanded playoff has done to college football. An expanded playoff has totally devalued rivalry games. Because he basically said, I don't really care that we lost the 4th straight year to Michigan. We got to go win a national title. Now, Alabama in 2017 lost to Auburn and then went and won the national title. That was a rarity. Tennessee did lose to Florida in 97 and played for what could have been the national title and won the SEC title. These things happen. That's a part of the sport. You don't want it to be that common, though. And here's the problem. That Michigan-Ohio State game, that's not the first time that's going to happen. Okay? That's going to be a common thing now because the college football playoff is expanded and it's totally devalued the regular season. I bring this up all the time. The greatest spectacle in the history of college football, to me, the greatest spectacle in the history of sports was the Kick 6 Alabama-Auburn game in 2013, where Alabama is a two-time defending national champion and Auburn beats them because Chris Davis fields a missed field goal by Alabama as time expires with the score tied, and he runs it back for a touchdown the other way in one of the greatest moments in sports history. That game would be irrelevant in today's landscape of college football. Completely irrelevant because both teams would be going to the playoff and nobody would care. You don't want those games to be irrelevant like that, guys. That's the biggest problem. Yes, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you luck out and get rematches like 2011 Alabama LSU because the dominoes fall. But you don't want it to be a regular thing. You don't want it to matter so little. And now these regular season games matter so little because of what happened. So I'm going to put it up on the poll question. Okay. The expanded CFP devaluing rivalries is terrible for the sport, or a necessary evil, or how about this? It's terrible for the sport, or no big deal, more playoff games outweigh it. So that's going to be my question, okay? How about this? The expanded CFP devaluing rivalries is terrible for the sport, or no big deal, more playoff games outweigh it. You guys let me know about that, okay? And I'm going to add this. The expanded CFP devaluing regular season rivalry games like Ohio State, Michigan. All right, there we go. You guys let me know on the poll question. I've put it up now. The expanded CFP devaluing regular season rivalry games like Ohio State, Michigan is terrible for the sport. No big deal. More playoff games outweigh it. Guys, I think it's terrible for the sport. I think it's absolutely terrible. This is the one thing college football had over any other sport. And you guys can't come to me about, well, look at the NFL with the Cowboys and Washington and the Commanders, and that's a rivalry, or whatever, this team and this team, that's a rivalry, and then the playoffs still matter. Or how about baseball with the Yankees and the Red Sox? No. College football was different because you knew these rivalry games would carry magnitude every single year because there was no expanded playoff. Don't give me Duke UNC in basketball. I don't really watch Duke UNC in basketball unless they both have multiple 5-star recruits and they're going to the NBA and I want to see them face each other in college to see what we might be looking at, okay? College football is different. These rivalry games matter to the most extreme degree. And the expanded playoff devaluing something like Ohio State, Michigan has absolutely ruined the sport. Okay, it has. I know that's crazy to say, but it's absolutely ruined the sport, and it's not going to bring in new fans because the uniqueness of college football was they made every game matter so much. Okay, and I got to be honest, Jack Sawyer, it's a what the H moment, but you can't blame him. And he adds, by the way, he goes further. Sawyer said the ultimate goal, you play to win championships. Then he said, and like in the NFL, you lose 4 games in a regular season, you're probably the 1 overall seed in the playoff. And he said, so that's kind of the approach we took, especially with the expanded playoff. I think it's going to continue to be like that. Obviously, the game is still going to be the game because it is the game, the best rivalry in sports. But I think at the end of the day, I think you'd be crazy to say you would rather beat them and not win a national championship instead of win a national championship and not beat them. In a perfect world, you do both of those things. But obviously, we didn't. But winning a national championship kind of erases all that. For me, it does. Yeah, no, he said it erases it. Again, I don't blame Jack Sawyer. He's saying the dead, cold, hard truth. It's just a truth that is really, really, really bad for college football. Sawyer, by the way, was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 4th round, the 123rd overall pick. This is a bad look. Adam, I'm going to address what you said because you say we want college football to be exactly like the NFL, except for when it comes to having a playoff system. I don't want it to be like the NFL at all. I've never wanted it to be like the NFL. Okay, I'm not against uniform rules with college versus the NFL in terms of actual rules on the field, but I don't want college football to be like the NFL. And I've never really been big on it being like the NFL. That doesn't mean there's certain things that it can't be like the NFL in, i.e. how players are paid, unions, things like that, rules on the field. But come on, I'm just not a fan of. I don't want it to be like the NFL. Derek says, college football has went retrograde. Just look at the constant topic of discussions. Yes, and he said devalue a rivals game to hype up and a bum out of conference matchup. I mean, yes, I think that's kind of what's happening now. General Ursus adds, I personally think the playoffs are terrible in general. Get rid of it and reestablish the BCS. Better yet, go back to the days of the AP voting for the national championship. General Ursus, I actually fully agree. Don't even go back to the BCS standard. Here's what you do. Here's how you make college football great and perfect. The concept of the BCS was great, but I would do it in a different way. Have all the teams play bowl games and have bowl tie-ins, by the way. The SEC team always goes to the Sugar Bowl. The Big Ten and old Pac-12 or whatever always went to the Rose Bowl. First of all, bring back the old conferences. And just have all the bowl tie-ins. No BCS 1 versus 2 game. Have all the bowl tie-ins. And then after the bowl games are played, treat that like a de facto regular season game. And then you rank 1 and 2 and you have them play in a +1 format. Boom. That's how I would do it. And I honestly would make it matter like that. Randy says you're missing the point. Rivalries are more important locally than nationally. Well, the reason they're so important, Randy, locally is because of the national or conference implications that happen to them. That's where I think these rivalries didn't develop out of thin air. That's how they developed. What the H brought to you by Double D Piping, fire protection contractors, providing around-the-clock service, protecting their customers' lives and properties all the time. DoubleDPiping.com.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
The poll question, the expanded CFP devaluing regular season rivalry games like Ohio State, Michigan is terrible for the sport, 69%. No big deal. More playoff games outweigh it, 31%. Sorry, it's right. The 69% terrible for the sport. That's where I land on this, and I'm not going to back down. I stand strong on terrible for the sport. More playoff games do not outweigh it, guys, and the biggest reason is those playoff games last year sucked. Okay? It was terrible with the timing. You spread it out over a month because you have a week of games and a week off, then another week of games, and you try to put it around New Year's. That makes no sense. Here's what you can't accept. And here's what college football can't accept. They can't hold on to the traditions that we all love about the sport and have a playoff. The two can't coexist. Nick Saban had been bringing that up for a while in the past. You can't have those things coexist. You can't have the bowls. You can't have taking over New Year's Day being so exciting. You can't have those things and an expanded playoff. You either do an expanded playoff where you just have a standard tournament week by week to week in December on Saturdays, or maybe even January, or you go back to the old system. And you may not like to hear that. You may hate it, but the expanded playoff does more to devalue this than anything. Okay. The expanded playoff has devalued college football September through November. It devalued college football on January in the bowl games. It devalued conference championship weekend in December. And also you could have 2 extra weeks of games in later December that resulted in a bunch of terrible games that were boring as heck. And by the way, nobody was watching the bowl games in general. And so honestly, taking all this into account, I am sorry. College football operated because it was hyper localized, and then the national implications were there from a hyper local sport. Now doing what they've done, they fully nationalized it, and that's going to destroy the sport long term. I don't think it's I genuinely don't think college football's headed towards the right place. And what Jack Sawyer said is deadly accurate. It's dead on, and it's terrible for the sport. You should have a feel as Ohio State should have a sense of, well, we won the national title, but we didn't beat Michigan. That sucks. They don't have that. They're like, you know what? We won the national title. And they're right to feel that. I would do the same thing if I were them. It's taking away, though, what we all loved about college football, and that's bad for the sport. I'm telling you, it's horrible. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com, live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Thank you guys all for tuning in with me today. Again, Dave is still out with a personal issue. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. We will have him back. He's just got to deal with something first. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports and want you to be a part of it. We are live every weekday starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, guys. Every weekday, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Again, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those good things. Again, hit the like and subscribe button. We want you to be a part of how we're growing here, and we got a lot of exciting things coming up. Thanks a lot again for tuning in. I'll be back on tomorrow because, as I said, live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. With Caleb Calhoun, this has been a presentation